Good. A little bit tighter. Great. Good. I like that smile, Casey. Good. Great. Good. Keep me more. A little sexier. Girls. Great. And good smile.
When it comes to the basics of sexual attraction, we may be animals, but we can be very sophisticated animals. We have a conscious perception of what is beautiful and what is sexy, as well as a biological one. And one culture's ideal of beauty can differ greatly from another's. In the West, for example, a slender figure is considered especially attractive for females, and a moderately muscular frame is preferred for males. In contrast, among the Maasai of East Africa, an incredibly slim figure, which to us looks almost effeminate, is the epitome of masculine beauty. This contrasts strikingly with the much heavier body that spells beauty in many of the islands of the South Pacific, where it applies to both males and females. Wherever you look as you go around the globe, there are local beauty standards that are sometimes strange to foreign eyes. They're often too subtle to be appreciated by outsiders, but of enormous importance within the societies concerned. For instance, among the Toda of southern India, female hairiness is especially appealing to men, even to the extent of heavy female eyebrows. But although beauty standards do vary around the world, there are a few universals that apply to the whole human species. The outline of the adult male body, for instance. To be sexually appealing, the male needs to have a triangle formed by wide shoulders above a narrow waist. To females, another important male signal is a compact, muscular behind, perhaps because of its sexual thrusting power. Male muscularity in general is appealing, but the dividing line between the well-muscled and the muscle-bound is a fine one, because an over-cultivated physique implies vanity. By contrast, a flabby body lacks the key signals. Another quality that has universal sex appeal is youthfulness. Sex drive and fecundity are at their highest levels among the youngest adults. The male's sex drive peaks at the age of 18, and the female's fecundity at 22. When a survey of sexual appeal was made in 190 different societies around the world, it was discovered that the most important feature, common to all cultures, was a healthy body and a clear, unblemished skin.
So some interesting things there in that clip. One is the differences in concepts of beauty, that there's some universals. So men, you need to make sure that you lose your flab and tighten up your butt. But that there are lots of instances where that concept of beauty varies from culture to culture. And the role that physical attractiveness plays, in fact, varies considerably as well. United States, there's been a lot of criticism in recent years of the image that's projected of the American woman in advertising and in media generally, which doesn't correspond to the reality of what most women look like. There's this international mate selection project that's discussed in the text. It's interesting in terms of the commonalities that were demonstrated there in the results of the survey, what people were looking for in a potential mate. Good health is one of the things that was highly rated, but also a kind, understanding, gentle personality, intelligent, has a good personality. Those are all things that were pretty universally rated as very positive and highly sought. There are a couple of cultural distinctions that were interesting. For example, how important is it that your potential partner be a virgin? And chastity certainly points more to women than to men, and this varies considerably from culture to culture. So, for example, in African cultures that was seen as important. In Scandinavia, no one cares. A universal in terms of the results of that project, no surprise there that what men are looking for is someone younger than themselves, and physical looks are very important. For women, it's more important that the potential partner be well established in life. And there are some differences in what women were looking for and what men were looking for. This is what's meant by sexual dimorphism, that was found to be particularly high in African countries. That is to say, women and men were looking for different things in partners. We're going to take a look at a clip that shows another cultural variation, namely in how a partner is found. So let's take a look at that clip.
Beyond the eyeing up stage, we come to the next phase of the human courtship sequence, the pickup. How do people break the ice? Well, a useful device is the cultivation of the lucky accident. Some irrelevant, completely non-sexual factor, like exercising the dog, is introduced into the equation. The individuals involved are not actively seeking a partner. That would be too obvious. Instead, they're engaged in a common pursuit, which just happens to bring them together. More formal meetings between young people offer an opportunity to parade, eye up, display, and pick up all at the same time. These young Maasai males show off their prowess by leaping up and down in their vertical dance. They're watched discerningly by the young girls of the village, who, even at this tender age, are already deeply involved in the exciting business of mate selection. The hair flick signals the interest of a male in a particular female. All around the world, new connections are being made, new links are being forged, as friendly words take over from shy glances. We've arrived at the chat-up. This is the information exchange phase, in which people find out as much as possible about one another's backgrounds, their likes and dislikes. This reciprocal detective work may take some time, but it's a vitally important process when embarking on a long-term breeding partnership. In this particular region of modern China, the young men and women have a traditional way for overcoming the greatest problem of the chat-up, shyness. Instead of simply mingling and chatting, they keep apart and sing their conversation from one group to another. They might sing about their personal skills or bravery, which can cause a lot of amusement. And the reply might be about property, the number of tractors in their village, for instance.
So, courtship practices vary considerably across cultures. Activities that one engages in to find a partner can be very informal, walking the dog in the park, going to a bar. But there are also, in a number of cultures, there are these formal activities that take place that bring men and women together. How you indicate interest was kind of interesting there in that one African tribe where you flip the hair at a man that you think might be a potential partner. The West, we have different ways of indicating interest. How you overcome natural shyness. You have these formal get-togethers in a number of cultures. We saw a couple of examples of those, and there we have the alcohol, often used in Western cultures. I'm not going to talk much about the flirting report because you're going to read an excerpt from that for this chapter. This is again Kate Fox, who's from the Social Issues Research Center. She's the director there. So has some interesting things about courtship in both in Britain and internationally. A couple of things in particular to pay attention to is this, what she calls the chat-up theory of evolution, which is kind of interesting, the role that effectiveness in flirting has had in human evolution, and a couple of things that she talks about in terms of contemporary life, and these apply not only to Britain but to Western cultures in particular, the Peter Pan syndrome and singleton. So this is something that we'll talk about in the discussion forums as well. We'll just talk very briefly about marriage and divorce and kind of update statistics on some of these things that are given in the textbook. Where's the highest percentage of people who marry? In Asia. Very high in China and India. In the United States, percentage of people who marry has gone down. It was a couple years ago 59%. Now it's down to, the latest statistic I've seen is 51%. So married couples are in danger of becoming eventually a minority in the American population. Median age when people marry has gotten older and older in the United States. Other places where people tend to get married a lot, in Eastern Europe, they also tend to get divorced a lot. That's true in the United States as well. And marriage is also very popular in Anglophone countries. Where don't you get married? Well, Scandinavia, Norway, Denmark, Sweden in particular, some European countries, France, South Africa, Chile, those all have relatively low rates of married adults. One of the things that you're seeing as a result of that is a growing acceptance of children born out of wedlock because there are fewer people getting married. And so you see, for example, in Sweden, I think that the statistic the most recent statistic I saw was over 50% of the children are born to couples who are not married in Sweden. We're going to talk about arranged marriages a little bit. This is something that's quite common, not in the United States. It is actually in the United States among immigrant families, but by and large, this is something not seen in America. But it is in lots of other countries. And we're going to watch a short clip that talks about the situation in India.
I should be more careful. I can't be seen with you speaking like this.
Like how?
Intensely.
God, you're a free woman. Why can't you speak intensely if you want? Why do you worry so much what people think?
Because I'm engaged to be married.
Engaged?
Yes.
How long have you been engaged?
Since I was 4 years old. Our families have known each other for generations. His name is Ashok. He has a very good job. He's very polite. We'll be married in July.
Do you love it?
Not yet.
I can't believe this. I just can't believe that someone as strong and smart and as opinionated as you would settle for an arranged marriage.
I'll learn to love him.
But what about your right to choose for yourself?
My parents met each other on their wedding day. They love each other.
To me, that's crazy.
Some people would say America's 50% divorce rate is crazy.
Will you tell Ashok about us?
No, of course not. No one must know.
So what do you call this, what you and I are doing?
Holiday in Goa.
What?
It's something my friends and I say. A friend of mine, Priyanka, she fell in love with a boy 1 month before she had to get married. He was a boy from her school. So she told her parents she was under a lot of stress and she had to go for a holiday in Goa alone. So she and the boy went to the beach. They had 3 weeks together. And she came back and got married.
Huh. So I'm just your holiday in Goa. Huh?
Not just. My only holiday in Goa.
So the attitudes there towards arranged marriages are very different, I think, from the perspective of Americans and perspective of cultures where this is common. So, for example, India is one of those, Pakistan. I think for Americans this is hard to imagine that this would be an acceptable thing, that somebody else is going to find my spouse. But it's perfectly accepted in a number of cultures, and it doesn't mean that love is not part of the marriage. That's as we heard in that clip. What happens very often is one falls in love after one gets married. It's very different from Western practices in that respect. So the last thing we'll talk about is divorce. Divorce is becoming much more common across the globe. There are a number of factors that explain that. One of the main things is the status of women is changing, continuing to change, and more possibilities of women living on their own because they've become educated and have jobs that allow them to live on their own. There are other reasons as well. Used to be that the United States had the highest divorce rate. I think it's now no longer even the top 10. I think it's number 12 in the latest statistics I've seen. It's higher in Eastern European countries, particularly in Russia. I think Russia's number 1 now. I think it's something like 60% of married couples and marriages end in divorce. It's high also in Anglophone countries. In Great Britain, despite the fact that in Great Britain they still don't have a no-fault divorce. It seems kind of strange. It's one of the things that has facilitated divorce in the United States and a lot of countries. Maybe not necessarily a good thing, but certainly for people who want to get out of a marriage, a no-fault divorce is really important. In countries that have a relatively low divorce rate are mostly Asian countries and Catholic countries. So in China, it's relatively low rate, but it's increased significantly. It's 20%, which is less than half of what it is in the United States, but has increased in recent years and is likely to further increase. And in other Asian countries, it's low as well, in Catholic countries like Italy and Spain also.